All
All
right,
right.
so we are recording now.
All right, great. Thank you, Kim. So good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the May ESBC meeting. Hopefully this will be one of the last few meetings that we'll have on this project, at least until we finish our audit with the MSBA. But the one item to talk about is accepting the landscaping, which has been the remaining item. But before we do that, I want to formally acknowledge and welcome Jim McCaffrey as our newest member. He was appointed by the Select Board last night, and from my own perspective, Jim, we are glad to have you. I think your perspective will be very much appreciated and help us deal with a number of issues that we have.
So thank you, Wayne. I mean, here's my choice: to go off into the sunset or to grab onto the award-winning building and bring it to fruition. So this was not hard.
Well, yeah, it's always good to hitch onto a wagon that's going somewhere, right?
Right.
And I want to thank Craig Schultz for all of his time on the committee. He's here in a new capacity as the Select Board representative. But Craig, you've been on the PBC and the ESBC, the PBC obviously longer, for quite a few years. What was your first project with the PBC?
The library. So I started with the library.
All right.
Yeah. So it's been an enjoyable time, and I'm looking forward to leaving early when you start paying bills. I think that's the through that.
Well, you know, there have been, I think, as you may remember, there have been previous Select Board liaisons that have in fact voted. So you may, you may do so if you wish. Not that it will count,
not
but
vote on anything without your permission. But if you have an opinion that you'd like shared, I will gladly volunteer it. But I am not voting on bills. I'm leaving the minute those come out.
All right, there you go. All right, and I see Diane. Good evening, welcome, Diane. We've already started the introductions. So let's talk about our meeting yesterday at the site. We had Julie Allen from Agostini, Chris Eberly, Compass, Paul Pagliarini, I think I said that right. He's the president and owner of Central Nurseries, and his project manager were there. Myself and I'm Chris. Am I missing anybody?
I think that's everyone, and David Warner, of course.
Oh, I'm sorry, and David Warner, our landscape architect.
Yeah, Tom Grant is, I believe, the project manager for Central.
All right, thank you. So why don't you give us a quick rundown of what transpired yesterday?
Yeah, it was a good walk through the property. We took a look at the various lawns. David was very gracious with his time to ensure that he explained a lot of the intentions as it related to maintenance on the facility. We walked around with a concentration on both the lawns and the trees, particularly ones that were both substituted in the fall, as well as those that were that had the appearance of some dieback. We had a discussion about trees to be addressed and came to an agreement on how that's going to happen. Central Nurseries was going to go back and look at their available stock and possibly replace the trees as early as this Saturday. We're waiting to get confirmation on that. I don't believe we've gotten that as of yet. They're going to go through and remove stakes at the trees that are fully established, as well as pruning of some of the dead branches on some of the trees that were noted, so that they'll be leaving the landscape in a great condition. David did say that he would follow up with you, John, with a diagram that he showed us, as well as some notes on the ongoing maintenance of the facility, so that it's in keeping with the original intention in terms of areas where the low mow I think it's low mow, the way he referred to it, fescue, where it's intended to be a longer meadowy look at certain aspects of the lawns. And we also had a discussion about the tennis court. We're going to try and find a time to address the color variation from the patch and repair that we did in the fall. Julie is working to schedule that. And I think that's more or less the wrap up. It was a good conversation. We had an overall good discussion, and we're that much closer to closing out the project.
So a couple of points. If you looked at the email that I forwarded you today from David Warner, he confirms on it that the lawns have been accepted as far as he is concerned. He did make the point that, and Chris alluded to this, the sloped areas are intended to be long. They're intended to be only mowed twice a year, and then only at the highest possible setting on the lawnmower. They're intended to be long, and then that will eliminate bare spots where weeds have the opportunity to grow. So he said the mistake that most municipalities make is they think they're saving themselves some effort by cutting at the shortest possible height on the mower to save numbers of cuttings. That is not what is expected here. These are intended to be more of a meadow type look, including not only on the slope that faces the middle high school, but also the side that that comes off of the cafeteria. That is intended to be almost, as he described, I think his term, Chris, was a woodland type area with volunteer pines growing in it. And
yeah, he talked about two aspects. One is that in especially the steeper hillsides and the broader areas sort of away from where kids would be playing, he described those as a meadow. The intent was to sort of grow a meadow so that you have a slightly longer grass that might only need to be mowed twice a year, and that if you time it appropriately, you'll do a good job of mitigating weeds between the longer length and the timely mowing. He also described the area just off of the cafeteria as an area that was sort of intended to replicate what was originally there, to sort of grow as a grove of pines, possibly having some additional ones sprout up as they drop seeds seasonally, and overall just sort of create a replication of, the intent is to sort of create this idea that replicates what was originally there to the extent that you can on a campus such as this.
so, and so he's going to update a chart, a diagram with areas of when to mow, specific times of the year, and then again at the highest possible setting on the mower. The other point that I think needs to be mentioned is Paul Pagliarini, owner of Central Nurseries, said he is committed to making sure that the client, us, are fully satisfied when the job is done. He said, and he's willing to do that to the extent that he accepts responsibility for some things that he thinks he's not responsible for. And I will give you an example. There were a number of trees that were that have never been on a list to be replaced. And there is no guarantee that all of these trees will survive indefinitely. And we're over 2 years since the original planting. But he said, I'll take care of everything. He said, I want to make sure that everybody is satisfied. The only thing that he asked in return is that we pay the retainage that we're withholding. And I think my reaction to that was that was more than fair. My view is everybody said the right things. We had a good understanding of where the project is, and it is in an acceptable condition. This last remaining step, I think, is, in my view, in the words of Ronald Reagan, it's our job to trust but verify. So we need to make sure that these dead trees are in fact replaced, and that where then our project is essentially complete. So with that, I throw it open to the committee. Questions, comments? Rich?
Hey, Wayne. One thing I do want to say, I agree with all the landscape stuff. If they're willing to replace the trees, that's great. And the grass looks fine. The one thing I do have to say is, although we kind of push back against the pickleball courts, I've been down there quite a bit, and I got to tell you, though, that place is hopping. It's always, you can always hear that pickleball going back and forth over there. So it's kind of great to see all that enthusiasm for people being there. So that's something like I was a little surprised about.
Well, like they said, pickleball is the most popular expanding sport at the moment. So, and
Did you go by at 10 p.m.? Hope not.
Jim, with my
I
new
was there
role,
at
I
10
have been
p.m.
down there just to hear it. While I was running, I walked by several times just to listen to it.
I was finishing concrete at 10 p.m. Just so you know.
Okay.
All right. Diana's talking, but is muted. So
Yeah, I know. That's something you're all looking forward to having more of.
Mm.
The tennis court, why are we fussing around with a color issue when we have the surface pretty level right now?
Because it is substantially different, and if we can match it, I think it's to our benefit to do that. It will be at no cost to the town. So we're sending Julie off to confer with the subcontractor to see about how to do that in a way that will not be disruptive. So we're waiting to hear back from her.
I have that photo, Wayne, if you'd like me to put it up.
Sure. I'm not sure how demonstrative it is. It's quite a bit different.
So you can see here, this is not a card being held in front of the screen. This is how different the shade is at the patch where we patch to level.
And so,
That's pretty different.
yeah. And I think if we can get this done with minimal interruption, we're better suited to do that. So that's the other remaining item. So any questions or comments about the landscaping? Because the issue then will be for us to consider releasing the retainage, or at this point, a portion of the retainage. All right. Is anybody willing to make a motion? We have a bill in front of us from Agostini for $45,000 of that is we're holding a total of $70,000 for Central Nurseries. My proposal would be that if the committee so desires, we approve the $45,000 tonight. And then in order to help Central Nurseries with their cash flow, that we would meet in 2 weeks, verify that they have in fact performed all of the tree replacements that Chris alluded to. And if we verify that, then I would ask the committee to reconvene the first week of June and to consider releasing their final retainage of $25,000. And that would essentially close out the project.
Wayne, could we approve on a contingent basis the remainder of the $30,000?
The whole 70,000 at this point, Diane?
Yeah,
I
No, I
thought
mean,
about
you're saying release 45.
correct.
Could we do the remainder as something that could be approved and released?
So if I may, I went through sort of where we are financially, just in terms of Agostini's overall contract. So currently they have a balance of, with this $45,000 release, they essentially have a remaining balance of $54,126.18. Of that, 20,000 is, there's an additional 20,000 in GMP contingency that they were holding on to as a just in case, that's likely to come back in a change order. So there'll be a $70,000 change or a $20,000 change order that brings it down from the 74,000 that's shown on the invoice you're considering as the balance to remain. We'll bring that down to the $54,000 number. The $54,000 number is made up of $2,945 charge of base contract work regarding the tennis court, as well as $2,084 of retainage to the tennis court contractor. $29,095.50 remains to Central Nursery as retainage in terms of the actual numbers. The additional $45,000 is in addition to that you're voting on tonight. And then there's $20,000 that we're holding for Agostini. So if we can get all the paperwork processed in time for a meeting on the first week of June, which is what we discussed when we were on site yesterday, you would be approving that final payment of $54,126.18 at the next meeting.
Wayne, sorry to bust in. The planning board that night on the 8th.
I was thinking like the first, Rich.
The first. Oh, the first. Okay. Let me see here. Hold on. Yeah, you do the first.
Assuming that we don't have a schedule problem, Denise, I see you looking.
I'm checking right now to see if we're meeting on the 1st.
Is there any reason not to do that?
I don't think so.
Only thing I can think of is if we can't, excuse me, if we can't process the paperwork in time, because I need to get information from Julie. We need to work through a VIP, and I'm verifying with Mary. I haven't heard back yet whether there's any steps on our end in terms of closing that out with the town, since that will be our final invoice.
Okay, well,
I'm clear on the 1st, Wayne.
excellent. Let's go ahead tentatively and plan that, Kim, if you would, please. The reason to do it is to start the closeout and the final audit with the MSBA. If you've looked at the VIP, and I'm jumping ahead here, we've talked about this before. We are essentially at a $4 million credit to the overall budget. The balance that has been estimated still due from the MSBA is about $300,000. And we have a credit that'll come back to us, as Chris alluded to, in this final payment as well. We're going to be well over $4 million, but I'd like to get the rest of the $300,000 that the MSBA owes us, and we have delayed this process substantially in order to get this landscaping right. And I think, it's never going to be perfect, but I think we've got everything in place to make it as good as we can expect, and as professionally acceptable, according to David Warner at Warner Larson. So my feeling is, let's get on with it. Let's close it out. That being the case, is anybody comfortable in making a motion to pay the Agostini bill for $45,000?
I'll make a motion that we pay the invoice for Agostini Construction for the amount of $45,000.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? By roll, Denise Gibbons, how do you vote?
yes.
Rich Nichols.
Aye.
Mr. McCaffrey in his first official vote with the ESBC.
Yes.
Diane Germain.
Aye.
John Larkin, when you get off of mute, please let us know how you vote.
I just got on. I didn't think I was available for this meeting.
Yeah, he's not part of the ESBC.
Oh, wait a second. So who am I missing here?
That's it.
Yeah, I think you got
I
everybody.
think you have everybody.
You could ask
1,
Craig
2.
for old time's sake.
Yeah.
I think
One,
you have to
2,
ask
3,
Wayne
4,
Flacco how he
5.
votes.
Yeah. Right? That's 5.
look-
This is like the Brady Bunch on my screen. I'm like counting everybody.
I haven't
I'm
even
doing-
missed a meeting and
I'm
look
doing
how-
the same thing. We should all be looking up. All right. Wayne Clarko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. My apologies for that confusion. We have a Compass bill to pay, and we've got some minutes, and we have and we just need to schedule our next meeting. So let's get on with it. I think we've got the schedule in motion, and let's proceed according to what we've already discussed.
We're gonna make a
So,
motion for Compass.
yes, please.
Oops, wait a minute.
I'm gonna put it up there.
Yeah, put it up because I think I get the wrong one.
Okay. Hold on.
Is it the 47,199?
No, I had 2199.
Yeah.
but it might be-
It's just.
Oh, it is.
tiny.
That's the right number?
That's the right number. I'm just having
Okay.
trouble. It's like freezing on me to get to it.
No,
but-
that's fine. All right, so I make a motion to pay Compass Project Management the amount of $2,199 for invoice dated 4/30/21.
Second,
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, let's hope I get this right. Denise Gibbons, how do you vote?
aye.
Rich Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jim McCaffrey, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane Germain,
Aye.
Wayne Clarko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Craig, would you like to offer just a complimentary vote?
I'd like to vote aye as well.
Compass appreciates that, Craig.
Yeah. In a totally non-binding sort of way.
Mm,
We appreciate the support.
all right. We have minutes to approve, Kim?
We do. We have minutes from, where are they? April 13th.
Right. Make a motion that we approve the ESBC minutes of the meeting of April 13th as drafted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Denise Gibbons, how do you vote?
Aye.
Rich Nichols,
Aye.
Jim McCaffrey,
Aye.
Diane Germain,
Aye.
Wayne Clarko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Any further business for the committee to consider before we sign off tonight? Then I will see you all on Tuesday, June 1st for hopefully a short meeting to conclude the 6-year project of the feasibility design. Denise, I can recall having a beer with you and Steve Catalano in Compass's office on a snowy
Oh,
evening,
right.
Sunday evening, trying
Yes,
to
it was.
put some information together with pizza.
Yes, we did.
That was 6 years ago, Denise.
Oh, my goodness.
Shocking to
Wow.
think that it's been that long, but
Yeah. How many grandchildren later for you, Wayne?
still the same
27.
6. Still the same 6.
So-
Yeah, A lot's transpired, but we
Yeah.
have a lot to show for it as well.
Absolutely.
But sometimes we forget how long these projects take and what they take out of our lives. So thank you all. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. So Denise, I think we can bid you adieu. And
Thank
John
you,
Engel,
everybody.
and you're all welcome to stay. And Chris,
Bye,
John?
John.
All right.
Don't think of it as the end of construction. Think of it as the beginning of closeout.
Oh.
Thanks, Chris.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Sick.
All right. Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Thanks
All
so
right.
much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you. All right. Kim, do we need to reboot anything or can we just start?
I think we're just gonna go.
Go like leave or go like
Well,
Should leave.
you
No.
choose, you choose. We can start our PVC meeting.
All
How's
right.
that?
Well then, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the May meeting of the Millis Permanent Building Committee. Again, I'd like to acknowledge our newest member, Jim McCaffrey. Welcome, Jim. And I would also like to acknowledge Craig Schultz for his long service to the town, who has now left the committee as a voting member, but is the select board liaison. And I would just acknowledge that Craig was the person instrumental in making all of those pitches at town meeting to get all of those projects approved. So none of that would have happened without your silver tongue, Craig. So
I'm gonna miss that part of the job.
all right. So let's talk about the DPW project. We got Robert Taylor. Good evening, Robert. Jim McKay, Dave Ramachi, I see you there. Now, John, good evening. I tried to make you an ESBC member, but you corrected me, so thank you for that. Robert, let's turn it over to you. Give us a quick rundown of where the project is and where we are with our 2-week look ahead. What can we expect coming up?
Great. Thanks, Wayne. Nice to see you all again. The project is, it's moving along great. I was there on Thursday and we're about halfway through calendar on this project. Started in December, planned to end in October. So we're in May, we're at the 50-yard line here. And things are progressing fine. I think that the site work is largely complete. Underground work is behind us for the most part. There's still some riprap and some concrete trims to be done. But then site work will be largely quiet until the buildings finish, and then phase 3 will happen after that. The vehicle service building and the staff building are both fully framed up. We have a roof on the vehicle building, and we have a AVB kind of temporary under membrane for the staff building roof. So they're rough plumbing, rough electrical, rough HVAC can proceed in both buildings. So progress is good. And I'm gonna, Kimberly, can I do a screen share? Just walk through the schedule in a little more detail.
Yes, feel free.
All right, let's see how I do this. Do you all see that screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Good. Okay. So this is the last full project schedule that I got from JJ Cardosi. And this was 3 weeks ago, but so the dashed red line represents where we are now. And you can see as we move through site work, like the bulk of the work is done. And I mean, the good news is we're out of the ground and we're out of winter. That is all behind us. What it remains in terms of site work is this stuff right here. Retaining wall, some riprap. So I'd say site we're in the clear for sure. And with that is also all of the mysteries of what might be found underground in terms of ledge. That is also behind us. The vehicle service building, as I said, it's framed up. The steel studs are up. I could show you a photo of where we are. That's the vehicle service building on Tuesday. The framing is complete on the outside. The slab was being prepared. They were compacting gravel, getting ready for concrete placement and rebar placement, which will happen next week. So things are moving along at a nice pace. And likewise on the staff building, it's framed up and sheathed. The let me see if I can find a photo of the interior. Thought I had that here. Here we go. No. Excuse me. Managing these. On the inside, you know, all the interior walls are framed up. Door frames are in, and electrical and plumbing rough is all proceeding. So in terms of overall schedule, we're good. Project is on track to finish on time. There is a key piece of the schedule, which I've identified here in this red box on the schedule, and that is the insulated metal panels from Kingspan. Right now, we have received and reviewed shop drawings from Kingspan. The shop drawings are in the court of J.J. Cardosi. They are hoping to receive panels on site towards the end of June and install them in the first few weeks of July. And when that happens, then a lot of finish work can proceed. So you can see here on the schedule, a lot of finishes on the inside around linoleum tile, toilet accessories, painting. All of that happens after the insulated metal panels are up. Likewise, all of the, a lot of the detail electrical work and you know, the flooring, all of that, it awaits the completion of the Kingspan panels. And so that is the key piece of the overall schedule. It's in the forward view, not the rear view. So, you know, we're hopeful that we stay on track as far as schedule goes. But right now it's looking good. As I said, we're about 50% through the calendar. As far as the budget goes, Cardosi has submitted the pay requisition number 5, which brings us up through the end of April, and that represents about 35% completion of the budget. So the total expenses to date with that, which you will review later when you look at paying bills, is about $1.2 million on a $3.5 million project. In that is one change order already approved for boulder removal of about $28,000. Going forward, we have a few more change orders to consider. I think we'll be talking about those later on tonight. That would bring total change orders up to around $54,000, which is about 1.5% of the total budget. So as far as budget, we're on track to finish within a few percentage points of what the original bid price was. And most of that is in winter conditions and subgrade conditions, boulder removal, ledge removal. So both in time and money, things are going well in terms of our construction progress and working with the design team and the construction team coordinating. That is also going well. We are, I don't want to say enjoying, like it's fun, but it's a very productive and good communication going forward with JJ Cardosi. So all the signs are positive and pretty good. So I could stop the screen sharing. I don't really need
So Robert, you identified Kingspan as one of the one major area that I would refer to as what is a risk and plan.
Yeah.
The other one is the paving cost. And so I posed a question to Jim McKay. I know that you put the paving out for pricing. When will we know what that number is?
Next week. In 2 weeks. Yep.
All right.
It went out on a Wednesday and the bid, I just checked today when I was in the office. We had a lot of big companies that bid on it. Well, they've taken out the packet for it. So everything's done electronically, just the way we bid this. So that's how we decided to bid it this way. So everything is done electronically. So you can see everybody that actually took a packet out. So it's like I said, $700,000+. A lot of more people bid on it when usually it's only 300, 400,000. So.
Okay, good. Well, let's hope for the best. The other issue that we're dealing with is what you hear on the news all the time, which is the price of materials, all construction materials is just skyrocketing. Rich, I don't know if you want to comment on that or not. But, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, lumber prices have gone up statistically 245% over what they were a couple of years ago. So yeah, the prices are crazy.
Yeah, but the good news on that, excuse me, is that, and I asked Nick on Thursday, he's all bought out. He has paid for everything he needs on this project. The only wild card is the paving. Has bituminous pavement gone up in price? I don't know, but we'll find out, I guess, next week.
And then the other piece, Robert, is that we discussed at our last week's construction meeting, is that the DPW Phase 3 portion of the project, we should buy that out as well as soon as possible. So Dave, can you give us any kind of update on where we stand with that?
I was working on all that today. I got a good portion of it together. I did have one question for Robert. I was going to ask him separately, but Robert, the bollards, would you be against us using the wood fencing with the 6x6 post and the 4x8 rails instead of the bollards?
Yes. And the reason is that your trucks are very large. They'll just destroy a wooden bollard. It'll be a speed bump. I think what we should have are, 6-inch diameter steel pipe bollards.
I'll do the 6-inch, but it's in the plans is 4, so that's another thing.
Okay.
So it's going to go bigger with the lumber, but I just I wanted to check, and because I did count the bollards on the plans too, and there's an extra almost 15 bollards on the plan, and there is in the bid as well. So they're very expensive.
Are they?
Over almost $20 a piece.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, our entire focus has been to get the value out of the expense. So, and the way to do that is to build for the longevity. So buy what will last the longest.
Robert, can I ask you a question? If
Sure.
if you're using 4-inch pipe, could he substitute a lally column? Because that's the same thing. A concrete lally column could be work the same as a bollard.
Yeah, well, they need to be concrete filled, I think, to really stiffen them up. So they
So
don't
if he
just,
buys an 8-foot lally column, they were last time I checked, they were cheaper. I don't know if they've gone up too, but if that would be acceptable, that might be an option.
yeah, that might be an option. I mean, I would consider it. I mean, I was thinking about this question actually while we were standing in your garage on Thursday. Those are big trucks.
Yeah.
And if a big, great big pickup truck, or not pickup truck, but dump truck, I'd call it, loaded with stuff, bumps into a 4-inch lolly column. I don't worry too much about the truck. I worry about the lolly column. That's my only concern there. And if a vehicle hits the building and you incur, broken masonry or dented steel panels, the repair costs would exceed whatever the differential is between a lolly column and a 6-inch diameter concrete pipe. But let's look at the numbers. I mean, I'd go by the data and see what the difference is in the cost.
Yeah, I'll check on the 6 inches, and I know I checked the 4s, but I'll check the 6s.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's see.
Wayne,
Jim.
Is there anything in when you talk about potentially hitting it? Of course, the thing that jumps to my mind is insurance. Is there any, in terms of property casualty risk avoidance, is there anything we should be worrying about?
Well, it would be a covered event
Right.
under your policy. There's a deductible, and really probably would wipe out most recovery unless you did some serious damage. I think from the risk avoidance standpoint, I think that's the purpose of the bollard, is to guide the vehicle in a straight line in. We're actually substituting the bollards. I'm not sure what the term is, Robert, a guide for the tires to guide the vehicle into the bay.
Yeah, wheel guards. Yeah,
the wheel guards. And we thought the bollard would be more substantial and easier to navigate. So, so I think that's what we're attempting to do.
Yeah, and Dave mentioned 15 bollards, I think, in total, and of those, I think maybe 6 are required around the vehicle service building, and that's really where the risk is. I think where big trucks and school buses are driving through the building or driving in and backing out. In the case of the mechanics bay, where a small accident could wipe out a chunk of the building. So that's where I think we need the most robust bollards at the entrances to the vehicle service building.
I agree.
And maybe the outside should be permeated in a way. Those ones should be stiffer, because that's where vehicles are moving with a little more speed. Once you're inside, once the mechanic has a truck inside the building, it's doubtful that he's going to rev it up and speed out of there. But
okay, all right. All right. Well, let's look at that, and we could discuss it at Thursday's meeting.
Sure.
we can vet it further. Rich, I know you have been to the site a number of times. Any observations or comments about the construction or status?
I haven't made it. I didn't make it over. I was working on that other project over in, over at the school. So,
All right, okay. Anybody else like to comment about the status? Jim, are you satisfied with how things are going?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was there again yesterday. I try to stop by every day, and you can see there is a lot of progress. I'm very pleased with the roof on the mechanics bay, wash bay. I'm impressed with that building more than anything. I still think it will outlast anything in Millis if there's ever. I put the building up against the truck, but I know what you're saying about the balls and stuff like that. I think that building out back is built to I've said it many times, to last forever. It'll outlive all of us here. I can guarantee you that.
Well, for some of us, that might not be.
That's not much, right?
Let's hope that that's a low bar to jump over. All right, Dave, how about you? You care to comment on where we are at the moment?
I think everything's going really well. Just we got final inspections today for the plumbing, and electric was done the other day. They're almost done with the radon system, so they'll be almost ready for the floor. But everything's moving around really well.
Good. John, have you been out recently?
Yeah, I was unable to make the meeting Thursday, but I did drop by on Friday. And I'm very happy with the process and the progress.
Good.
I notice the staff building is closed in with the windows and all that closed over, so.
Good.
Covering
All right.
there.
And Diane, I know that you've been working with Jim on phones and is it just the staff building, or is that in the vehicle building as well?
Just the staff building, I believe.
The staff. So phones and computer hookups in the staff building?
Yep, I need to get the plans marked up. Jim, it may come down to you and me doing that.
That's fine. We can do that.
All right, well, we need to get that to Robert Taylor right away.
Sure, we can work on it tomorrow.
Okay.
I can, if Diane, if you're not busy.
Okay, all right. So we've got some bills to pay. We've got a requisition from Cardozi to review. I think a number of you have looked at the submittal, the pencil rec. And my understanding is Rich and John had no comments. Dave and Jim, no comments. All right.
Wayne, the only thing was on that, you had in there, something was highlighted on the thing in yellow. I just wanted to ask on that. It was the civil permitting scope and the subcontracts permitting scope. Those were highlighted for some reason.
That was on Robert Taylor's monthly bill. I had a question as to what that civil permitting, because that was extra service. And if you looked at the detail, that was a review of all is it CDW who did all the site analysis in the contamination testing and analysis. We had an area that we thought might be trouble, and we did some testing there, and so it's that cost, and then the review by Simpson Gumpert's of those tests. So that's what that was.
All right, great. I just saw the highlight and was just curious to what it was. So.
Yeah, I highlighted them because they are per our contract, extra services. There's I think a $70,000 budget for extra services for mostly site-related permitting expenses, and it is by mostly CDW, but it shows up on the Simpson Gumpert's Hager bill because they are a sub-consultant to SGH.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. So Kim, can we pull the bills up?
Hold on, I think these are the ESBC. I have to get back to the top.
Wrong committee, Kim.
I know, I had all the tabs up and ready, so I just had to switch tabs. I wasn't fast enough. So, so I have JJ Cardozi as the first bill, and I'll get down to the rec and turn it. Hopefully we can figure out so you can see it a little better. So, and this is for $437,334.40.
Do I have a motion to consider this bill?
I make a motion that we approve the invoice for JJ Cardozi for April, I guess, in the amount of $437,344.40.
$334.
What did I say?
44. That's all right.
Sorry.
Second.
437,334.40.
Correct.
Right.
Second.
Okay. Jim McKay, you made or asked a question previously about retainage. You still have a question about retainage here?
No, I think we answered that at the last one. I got it. Yep.
Okay, yeah, that column on the detail is only if there's retainage that's of a different percentage.
Yep.
The contract has got its own 5% retainage. It's only if we negotiate something different on a line item. So, all right. Any other discussion? All right. Jim McCaffrey, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Diane Germain,
Aye.
John Larkin,
Aye.
Rich Nichols,
Aye.
Wayne Clocko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so we can move on to, let's see, Taylor and Burns I have next, and I'll just scroll down to that invoice. The amount of that invoice is $11,880.
And that represents $9,020 or no?
Yeah. That'll
In,
be-
in basic service and $2,860 in extra service.
I make a motion that we approve the bill for Taylor, wait, I can't see the top.
Taylor and Burns.
Taylor and Burns, sorry, thank you, for $11,880.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Jim McCaffrey, how do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
Diane Germain,
Aye.
John Larkin,
Aye.
Rich Nichols.
Aye.
Wayne Clocko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Next bill is for GCG in the amount of $2,967.50. And this is actually for the Yankee engineering and testing.
All right, I make a motion that we approve the invoice from GCG Associates for $2,967.50 for the month of April.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Jim McCaffrey, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane Germain,
Aye.
John Larkin,
Aye.
Rich Nichols,
Aye.
Wayne Clocko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. I'd like to make a comment on this though, and Jim McKay and I have talked about this a number of times. We had set aside $25,000 for testing, and if you look at our budget, we've already exceeded that amount. I think we're coming to the end of, I think once we get the slab placed in the vehicle building, we've been doing some compaction there, and then we'll be doing concrete strength testing there, which will be very important because of all those big, heavy vehicles that'll be driving on that slab. I think that should bring us mostly to the end of testing. Jim, any thoughts on your part, or Robert? Any comments about what other items we think we should be testing?
I agree that once he's done inside with the building, I think there was only one, there is a list of what testing needs to be done. And I know that JJ Cardosi, they're the ones that are calling him, and giving him the heads up with the testing. Dave, he wasn't out all that much last week. Wasn't it just maybe once or twice last week he was out? Maybe we lost Dave, but he has cut down a lot, and I can tell by the size of the spill because it was almost double, from the last one. So I agree with, I think we're coming to the end of that.
Wayne, are we obligated to either specific things that we have to do for, I don't know, this isn't a state funded project. So we're in charge of how much testing we have done. I mean, we can, right.
Exactly. And that's why we keep talking about it, Rich, is that there are things that are specified in the contract as requiring testing verification. We don't necessarily have to do that. But I think the points that we just discussed, the concrete placement, slab in the vehicle building will be important. They've been testing the soil compaction below that. Those were the last ones that I was aware of. And I think at that point, we should be nearing the end.
What I've done in the past is we could leave those items on the list that that could be tested, but put ourselves in charge of them. So if the subcontractor thinks they may be tested on them, they tend to do a little better job knowing that it may be tested. If we don't do it, that's fine. So I would put it where, hey, we're going to be in charge of calling the for the testing. And like I said, it really works especially well because if they think somebody's going to come in and check their work, they do it to the spec, and we don't necessarily have to test for it.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Rich said.
Yeah.
Let's keep this close to the chest that we're not going to be doing any more testing.
All right, but let's get the list, Robert. Can we have a sidebar? Can we get maybe Conrad or who can look at the contract and see what additional might be required?
Yeah, there might be some stuff like testing the moisture content of the slab before laying down resilient flooring or things like that.
The subcontractor can do that too, also, Robert. I mean, they're responsible for existing conditions. So if they accept it and it's unacceptable, so it would be in their own best interest to test the moisture content of the slab. If it fails and it's their fault, they own it. So there's some testing that we do that is, belt and suspenders. But if they own it and it's wet and it bubbles, they're gonna be putting a new floor down.
Totally true. Yep. I think that the window specs required pressure testing, and Wayne, you had stipulated at our meeting on Thursday that we don't want to do that.
Correct.
And I agree with that as well. So yeah, we'll get a list together of the remaining tests and keep an eye on that stuff. But I agree. Now that subgrade is compacted, the only thing really left to do is test the concrete. And the only concrete that really matters is the vehicle service building slab because of the size of the vehicles that'll be driving on it. Once that's done, I don't think we need to test anything.
Good. All right. I agree.
Wayne,
John?
I noticed, I think I'm correct, that Yankee is attending all these weekly construction meetings. Are we paying for him to attend those meetings?
Yes.
We are, and it's been up to this point just a question of coordination. But John, I agree with you. That does not appear to be money well spent at this stage of the project.
Yeah, added very little to it last Thursday. Good point, John.
I think that the week before he wasn't there after I talked to GCG. He wasn't at the last meeting, and I think he only attended this meeting because he was on site and JJ Cardosi asked him to come over to the meeting. So I don't think there should be a charge for that because he was already getting paid to be there. So we'll keep an eye on that when he submits the next bill.
Okay. Okay. Next.
Next invoice is for ad print, and it looks like it was for, whoops, sorry about that. DPW building plans in the amount of $622.20.
So the need for that was the building commissioner, I can pretty much talk anybody in the town hall, not into doing anything, but I could not talk him out of this. I asked him to give him a thumb drive of it that Robert supplied to me. He wanted a hard set copies of this, and I felt that just to appease it and just to keep the project moving easily, I just said, I brought it. I could not do it on our plotter scan. It was way too big of a job. And while I was doing it, David, he doesn't have a set of this either. So when we were discussing stuff and we asked Dave questions about what he thought of, he didn't have a set of these plans. So I had 2 sets made, and we'll keep 1 set for us, but we do have it on a thumb drive. And I get, the building commissioner is getting into the 21st century, but not yet. He insisted on having a hard copy of this.
Well, that's a subject for another day by another person, but I agree that's a cost that shouldn't have been necessary.
Jim, has he unrolled the drawings yet?
I'm not going to tell you because I think they're still on the table. I know that he sends them out. He does have, he's reviewing another large project that was sent out. So they're down there because I hand delivered them to him.
Okay.
This is where the select board representative speaks up for his guy, Craig.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I'm sure he'll look at them and I'm sure there was a reasonable reason to request them. Having not spoken to him, I was remaining mum, but I was taking notes.
Well, I mean, the good news is in different towns, they require multiple sets. So the fact that we only had to submit 1, Brookline, you have to do 6. And a thumb drive. And so that's, each town is different. So it's not crazy.
When we move to the next project, Jim, I'll point out that Brookline requires 6 and a thumb drive, so.
And your first
On
one.
the job a week and a day.
All right, does somebody want to actually make a motion to approve this this cost, or are we just going to gripe about it?
Now, I make a motion that we approve the cost of $622 to add print, $622.20 to add print for building plans.
Thank you. Do
Second.
I have a second?
Yeah, second.
All right, any further discussion? All right, Rich Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jim McCaffrey,
Aye.
John Larkin,
Aye.
Diane Germain,
Aye.
Wayne Clarko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Next invoice is for SM LaRusso and Sons in the amount of $1,075.28 for I don't know what. Rip wrap.
All right, I make a motion that we approve the amount of $1,075.28 for rip wrap for retaining retaining for the retaining walls or the basin.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Rich Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jim McCaffrey,
Aye.
John Larkin,
Aye.
Diane Germain,
Aye.
Wayne Clarko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Kim, can we see you rap? We'd like to hear you rap.
Nope.
In Brookline, I think they require 24 inches of.
Yeah,
rip.
24, yeah.
So that's the end of the invoices.
Do we have some change orders to review? I think we have some change orders. Were those, have those been submitted?
I have not seen any change orders.
I think Conrad did send them.
Let me check.
When did we finally come to a conclusion on the winter conditions?
Well, that's what we're gonna talk about, John.
Okay,
Not a happy one, but
So I have a report from Conrad. It was dated, anyways, it was CO02 and CO03. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes. Do you have those? Can you share the screen?
I can tell.
maybe.
I'm gonna try. So how do I do that? Because I have it up, and if I go to
Jim, is it PCO 03R2?
change order PCO05 and PCO08R1.
Jim, put your cursor down below the pictures. And
Yep.
do you see a green icon that says share screen?
But you know what? I opened it up on my own computer. So
All right.
all right, I see what you're saying now. Okay, and it says, where am I going with it, Diane? Say it again.
Down below the pictures, there are a bunch of
It says
things.
participants chat. Isn't that
Yep.
where it is?
Yeah,
Right
then you
next to
see the
that.
green one that says share screen.
Yes. There we go.
Click on it.
There you go.
Look at that.
Mhm.
New IT director, right there.
Yeah, no thanks.
Oh, that was Diane, the IT director.
Nah. Behave yourself, Craig, or we're gonna make you the new one.
I didn't volunteer.
So this is a combination of two items. One is steel angle of for the soffit for the, is it correct to say the soffit for the vehicle building?
No, the steel angles are there to secure the cowl wall
Right.
properly to the steel structural frame.
They
This is-
were picked up originally.
I'm sorry, Rich, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, the originally the cowl wall wasn't picked up. So the angle iron ended up picking up that
Right.
window.
Precisely, yep.
And they asked for a quick approval, which I gave, so that they could do this in the shop instead of doing it at additional cost out in the field. So that's that $801 amount. And then Robert, talk us through the soffit detail change.
Right. So in the soffit, this is the I'll call it the overhanging roof over the entrance to the staff building. The our drawings, the architectural drawings showed that the soffit would all be insulated in part of the kind of warm roof. The structural drawings showed that wall being a structural wall that needed plywood. So as it turns out, the soffit is a uninsulated cold cavity inside the roof. It needed to be ventilated, and some rigid insulation needed to be installed. So these were extras. You can see there's the insulation on the screen. That was a change required to satisfy the basically the energy code requirements, separating that cold roof space from the warm roof space. So we got.
Can I ask you a question, Robert?
Sure.
So you guys foamed it and then you put blue skin as a vapor barrier? So that
Yes.
you put where did you put the vapor barrier? On the inside or the outside?
I'm going to say on the outside,
Okay,
underneath the outside layer of insulation.
all right. I just, it's already done, but I just was curious to see because as you know, where the vapor ends up landing is really important, so.
Rich, to tell you the truth, when I was there on Thursday, I did not see this on the outside of the building, so it may have been applied to the inside of the building. Or
Okay,
may
I
not be
just-
done.
Yeah, but I'll touch base with you later and take a look at it. Just
Okay.
out of
Yeah.
curiosity.
Can we go back up to the totals for these two? I looked down to write them and
It's
Missed it.
2,000. This is for the soffit details, $2,066. And the other one was for steel angles of 800 and some.
801.47.
Yep.
And the second one was 2066.08.
Right. So I think that
Thank you.
they are totaled on the cover sheet,
right,
I believe.
there
There
they
we go.
are.
So this is change order number 2.
Yep.
Yes.
Jim, can you forward this to me?
I will, yes, definitely.
Thank you.
All right, I make a motion that we approve the amount of, could you just scroll back up, Kim, for me, please, or Jim? Vote that we approve the amount to JJ Cardosi for $2,867.55.
Second,
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Rich Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane Germain,
aye,
John Larkin,
Aye,
Jim McCaffrey,
Aye.
Wayne Clocko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
I'm gonna
Right.
try to get the other one.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry, so
go back
It's-
down to the
it's-
green button,
Yep.
down below the pictures.
Proposed change order number 3. I could also do it. I have it up on my screen.
okay, go ahead.
Do you see that?
Yep.
Proposed change order number 3. This is for the breakup and remove of ledge for the sewer piping. Total of $8,280. This came from, it was PCO 07 sewer run on April the 2nd. This was based on cubic yards, $230 per cubic yard. That was in the unit pricing under contract. So that there's no charge for labor or subcontractors. It's all based on unit pricing.
And my understanding is, Dave, you verified the volume of material. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wayne, one question is, and Robert, the question on the ledge is, there's ways of calculating it, is in the hole or in the truck. So typically it expands when you hammer it. So basically, if you have 1 cubic yard of rock and you hammer it, it blows up because you make it smaller. What do we know what we have in our contract? Do we have it in the hole or is it in the truck?
The contract does not specify that. And I think this is based on, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, how many truckloads?
Absolutely. It's truckloads.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, there's just 2 different ways to do it. We always do it in the hole because basically if we have to take out, 10 yards of material, I want 10 yards that isn't all fluffed up because
Yeah.
then the 10 yards becomes 20 yards. So next time when we do it, we should make sure we specify in our contract that it's in the hole.
So how do you know? I mean, just out of
You
curiosity
can do
here,
it by
if-
volume. You can basically take the size of whatever you're hammering out, width, height, and do the cubic volume on it.
Mhm. Okay, interesting. Well, we didn't do that.
Next time.
It's in the truck.
And I'm not sure where is our where is our change order for the winter conditions?
That's
Well,
next.
don't we have to do this one first?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
Yep. I make a motion that we approve change order 3 for JJ Cardosi in the amount of $8,280 even for breakup and removal of ledge.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Rich Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane Germain,
Aye.
John Larkin,
Aye.
Jim McCaffrey,
Aye.
Wayne Clocko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, next up then will be the winter conditions. This is the proposed change order 03R2 for winter conditions through the end of February. There will be no further winter condition charges. This was a negotiated settlement, I'd call it. The original change order proposal for this was around $20,000. And a counter proposal was made by Wayne for half that amount, around $10,000. Cardosi did not agree to that, and we, through subsequent discussion, ended up here at $15,000. And this is for maintaining the correct temperatures for placed concrete when through the winter, when the outside temperatures and the ground temperatures were lower than would be acceptable for the curing of concrete. And so blankets had to be thrown on the concrete, heat pumped in, and the heat required heaters to be rented and fuel to be purchased. And the blankets and all of that work involved labor. And so the amount that's shown here on this PCO, $1,769, that is out-of-pocket costs for the heater and the fuel. The next number is $13,000 for Connolly Concrete. That's a bit of a worked over number between JJ Cardosi and their subcontract Connolly Concrete to get to this settlement, which when we talked about it was $15,000. Just because of the way these forms are organized, we got to within 8 cents of that at $14,999.92.
And as you can see, there's no overhead or profit in those costs. This is the actual direct cost for that work. So we discussed it with Cardosi. We talked about what a reasonable amount would be to get this behind us. Robert spoke to Cardosi privately to see whether or not we could in fact strike a deal after our not our last weekly construction meeting. We did talk about this. I believe John Larkin and Rich Nichols were available. This seemed like a reasonable approach. I know it's not what we had hoped to achieve, but I believe in the spirit of keeping good relations as we get through the rest of this contract, this is, I think everybody's a little bit unhappy with the result, and that's not necessarily a bad thing in a negotiated amount. So we put it to the committee for your consideration, and we need to make a decision on it tonight.
Wayne, so I would say that, the fact that they didn't do overhead and profit on it, and they did come down that amount, and, that work did happen. I mean, so they did have to put the blankets on. They did have to heat the concrete. We did discuss that some of it was Cardosi's choice to keep going where they could have stopped. However, the double-edged sword on that is if they did, then that would have pushed our completion date out. It's something that comes up in construction. We have the same problem where we end up all of a sudden with winter conditions, and people go, well, how did this happen? And it's because we didn't put a number in ahead of time, because we don't know how much of it we're going to need. So I think they were fair on their numbers, and I think we should pay the bill.
Okay. Anybody else?
Wayne, I just want to make sure that I understand that the amounts really we're talking about here are amounts that Cardosi is going to have to pay somebody else.
Well, it's in large part that, Jim. The first amount, $1,769, is their own cost,
Right.
Or it's what they paid for a rental heater
Right.
and fuel. Actually, there's none of their labor is in there, so they've even removed all of their labor out of this. So, yes, it's to pay their subcontractor to do this work.
So, I mean, if you folks obviously went around with them several times, I think this is a reasonable compromise.
And that cost is the prevailing wage, which we've talked about in the past. That's the reason why that number is as large as it is. It's the prevailing wage, and we have been through that upwards, downwards, and sideways to verify it, and it is the correct amount.
Okay.
So do I have a motion?
Wait, if I could just state, I mean, I know we went back and forth with emails on this. I still, in my world, in municipal, procurement, we're not allowed to do any of this. So I still can't figure out how this is even being considered. I appreciate the fact that it has to be done. I mean, most of this work was done during, normal business hours. The staff was there. And it wasn't, I mean, this wasn't like they came back at midnight to make sure everything was working. I think one of these were done on a Saturday. I mean, it's not even winter conditions. From my understanding, isn't even part of the contract. So it's great that this can be done, but I still don't understand how procurement wise it can be done, because like I state, I can't do this if I do a bid, to fix a water main or something like that, if we hit ledge, I mean, it's in the contract. And from my understanding, that none of this was covered under a contract. Am I correct with that?
The contract has terms and limitations. This is an unforeseen condition, and we have a contingency for dealing with things that fall outside the contract. And so that's where the ability to consider an additional amount comes in, Jim. I'm not sure in your world if that ability exists or not, but we consider this all the time.
And Wayne, I think one of the other points that was brought up, if I recall, was they did extend the contract for our town meeting, which if we had executed when we originally were proposed, winter conditions would never have been an issue. But by extending it, winter conditions might have been one of those items that was no longer, that should have been proposed if we'd started in November, but when we originally got this in June or July, we would never have had to deal with winter conditions. So I think that's why, at least I recall, that's why we thought it would be one of those special conditions. Minimizing the cost as much as possible, but if the contract had been fully reviewed, with the November start date, it might have been caught then and winter conditions would have been allowed.
That's correct.
Yeah, so again, I'm not stating that I wouldn't do this or paying it. I think it's a great thing to do. I just wish I'll have to look into that to see if we can, do that in public sector. But, and Rich, stated, I mean, he knew about this. He knew about these days, we talked about it. And he chose to do the work in this time frame, every day. We provided him with the winter outlook, and even the days that it was going to get cold. I mean, we knew the Thursday prior meeting that on this day that he did this, and he chose to do it. So I get it. I maybe you can explain to me, so I can learn myself. I just I don't know how you pay somebody to do work during normal business hours, and we're paying them an extra $15,000 to do work that was being done while everybody was there. The rental of the blankets, we paid for the fuel. We gave them that option, and we offered extra blankets that I think they used some of our blankets and that. But to move the process on, again, maybe we can talk about it and you can educate me a little better on it.
Well, just one quickie on that, Jim, and I'm not going to go on and on. But the guys that are doing the form work and the flat work, they're getting paid to set the forms up, take the forms down, pour the concrete. When you go and add putting the blankets on, it's basically just time. And like Wayne said, unfortunately, when they spent at $75 an hour, that's where it adds up fast. So just in theory, what we're paying for is them to take the blankets out, crawl up on the forms, put them on the top of the forms and nail them down so they don't blow off overnight. And that's what you're paying for. That, technically, if they were doing it in September, November, they wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. I could speak to Jim's question about in public or municipal construction. We are regulated by Chapter 149 of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which says in its details, and I can't tell you exactly chapter and verse, that for construction between the months of, I think it's November and March, the specifications must provide for winter conditions, and the contractor must follow those specifications for winter conditions. And SGH included winter conditions in their concrete specifications. Now, your lawyer, the attorney who wrote the contract, quite diligently included in their supplemental conditions reference to Chapter 149. And so if you were to approach this in the most lawyerly way, you would say, it's in the contract because the supplemental conditions reference a Massachusetts law, and in that Massachusetts law, you will find reference to winter conditions. That's all true. However, on the other hand, the bids were filed in September, and the bidders anticipated that construction would commence forthwith. And the town of Millis needed to pause so that a town vote could happen. And so construction really did not begin until the beginning of December, which pushed the foundations into the heart of winter.
And one point on that, Robert, just to jump in, if you remember after the meeting, JJ Cardosi said that they would hold the price for us, which they didn't have to. So, they did have the opportunity to go back and revisit it and delay or try to raise the price. And
Yep.
they said, we'll hold. So, I would say, like Wayne said, I don't think there's a good answer, all around. So I think they want to be paid back for the funds that they have spent for a sub. We want to keep a good relationship with the contractor because there are going to be there may be potential change orders coming up. And so I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's unreasonable.
Anybody else?
I agree with Rich. Said it before, this is construction 101. It's like a lose-lose proposition, basically. It happens all the time. Everybody does these contracts and they're hoping that we're gonna have the warmest February in the history of the world. And everyone's shocked when it's 5 degrees on February 12th. And this is the problem it creates, and it's just, it happens all the time.
Okay, thank you. All right, do I have a motion?
Make a
Um,
motion to pay, excuse me, to pay JJ Cardozi for PCO 03R2, the amount of $14,999.92 for winter conditions.
So would this be change order 4?
Sorry, Kim?
Would this be change order 4 now?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Rich Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Diane Germain,
Aye.
John Larkin,
Aye.
Jim McCaffrey,
Aye.
Wayne Clocko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
So this one doesn't look like it has a cover sheet for signature. Is that right? Or is there one somewhere?
It does not. It needs to be formally submitted, and it will be included in the requisition for May that will be submitted at the end of May.
So can I get that before then so that I can try and get it signed, because accounting won't pay it unless it's officially signed, sealed, and delivered?
I will request that from Nick Jenkins tomorrow morning.
Okay, and I think the other 2 looked like, am I right? They looked like they were officially presented, and so then I can work on getting Mike to sign that, and then you can help me get the other signatures we need?
Yep.
Okay.
Great. All right. Any other bills, Kim?
No,
Okay.
no, we have a couple sets of minutes and we need to schedule our next meeting.
Okay, so let's deal with the minutes. Which minutes do we have, Kim?
We have April 13th and April 27th.
I move that we accept the April 13th meeting minutes as drafted.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Rich Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jim McCaffrey,
Aye.
John Larkin,
Aye.
Diane Germain,
Aye.
Wayne Clocko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right, what's the next one, Kim?
Just the next meeting date.
Oh, I thought
April
you said,
27th.
Yeah,
I
2
thought you-
sets of meeting
Oh,
notes.
I thought you approved both at the same time. Sorry.
no,
The 4th, April 27th is the second one.
okay. I move that we approve the April 27th meeting minutes as drafted.
Second.
Second. I defer to you.
Jinx.
Rich Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jim McCaffrey,
Aye.
Diane Germain,
Aye.
John Larkin,
Aye.
Wayne Clocko votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right. We have a elementary school building committee meeting on June 1st, which will be a very brief meeting in order to close out that project. We need to schedule a meeting that will allow for a pencil rec to be submitted and reviewed by you, Robert. When should we schedule a meeting in June? Rich, you said you have a planning board meeting on the 8th.
Yes.
What about the 22nd of June?
Nope, free.
Does that give you enough time, Robert, to receive and review and recommend a requisition.
22nd of June.
Yep,
Yes. Yeah, that's good for me.
okay. How about the rest of the committee? Does that work?
I have a note that we have an ESBC meeting closeout that night.
We're gonna try to do that on June 1st.
Okay,
That 7:30 or 7?
7.
7? Okay.
Yep. So now you want PBC on the 22nd, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So we have our next meeting. Any other business we need to discuss in relation to the DPW?
Robert, I'm just gonna reach out to you tomorrow just to walk through that vapor barrier. Oh, okay. You were
Okay,
muted, but yeah, sure, you said okay.
Yes.
all right,
Great, thank you.
all right. All right, then motion to adjourn the DPW portion of the building meeting. And with that, we can bid adieu to anybody who would like to leave. We just now have a discussion about the senior center feasibility study, so.
Oh,
Gentlemen.
Good night, everybody.
If you'd
Good
like
night.
to
Thank you,
retire,
everybody.
good night.
See you next month.
Attendance?
Thank you.
All right. All right, so coronavirus restrictions are abating. We've talked about attempts to get feedback from the Millis citizens regarding their desires in relation to a senior center. We have a fleshed out a questionnaire that we can use with or without focus groups. And we've talked in the past about trying to get a better understanding rather than just the officers of the Council on Aging's view of what would be needed for a senior center. It looks like we're getting closer to the ability to actually have in-person meetings. And so I throw it open to the group to get some input. I know there was some talk at the last town meeting about future projects, where this might stand, overall tax rates, those kinds of things. So we need to get some focus here and decide where we're going with it. So with that, I'll throw it open to the committee for comment.
I think I'd like to come down to the questionnaire and the focus groups. I strongly feel focus groups are worth a lot more than a questionnaire because we don't get high participation with these questionnaires. We might get better participation with focus groups, which is what we did with the Clyde Brown 100 years ago. But I heard a lot of opposition expressed at the town meeting from the Glen folks. Jim, do you know how strong that is? Is it a few people or is it more than that?
Well, there was, I think the opposition is really, a tax concern. Now, as those of you who went to the town meeting saw, there was a couple of efforts to, start I don't want to call it quite with a bludgeon approach, but not very precise. And in any event, to answer your question, I don't know for sure. I think that what you find, of course, is there are going to be some vocal folks, and those are the ones that are going to speak up. So I don't want to speculate, but I think it's perhaps more noise than substance. That doesn't mean that we don't have the opportunity to reach out to that community and get some more insight from them. But I think it's as much where they see the town going more generally as it is any specific issue around this particular building opportunity. So I know it's not a really clear, precise answer, but it's still up in the air. I think that I wouldn't want to single that group out as the one that we have to go after, but I don't think they can be ignored either.
But I think the point that you raised, Jim, is that any discussion that we would have about whatever option we might decide for what a senior center might look like probably needs to be presented within some context of
Right.
what other projects, bills, whether or not it's this PFAS expense that we're looking at, or I know Denise Gibbons had mentioned to me that the school is looking at a renovation in the next 4 or 5 years. I think they've started that process to consider the scope of a middle high school renovation. I'm not sure if there are I'm sure that's a pretty substantial, probably 8-figure number. I'm not sure what else of that magnitude might be lurking. So
I mean, the capital plan itself, identifies over a period of time, roughly $75 million of capital projects. And I think that estimate understates the potential for the school building, because the number is, there's a number that was provided by the school committee based on some, I guess it was Tetra Tech study or whoever it was a few years ago. Now that could end up being the net cost if you can get a project that qualifies for MSBA reimbursement, which, as we all know, the renovation, I think, would have to be substantial in order to qualify for that kind of funding. So if you're looking at a context here, there's a lot of projects out there, whether it's roads. PFAS was not something that we had identified in advance, but now it's on the plan because here it is. So, I mean, this gets to the issue of, you say, if you're going to bring people together to talk about a project, you give them some context. I think you have to, about what else is on the table. But I don't know how others feel, but if you're going to have a focus group, it's got to be about, a senior, I'll call it a senior or community center. Because that's the ask. And if it doesn't fit within a plan, well, then fine. But I think that there's enough interest in actually having the conversation. Now, whether this is going to end up, on the shoals of taxes are too high, I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I would agree with Jim on his view there. I think that you look at it as a senior community center project, get a scope and an idea of what people want. Then you come back in and then you put it in context of the other things that we have to do. Because of that $75 million, a good piece of that is override related, which would raise taxes. And a good chunk of that is normal operations, which we do every year.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily raise the taxes.
Right.
Well, I guess my point is that it's there. There is information. It's not like this is in a vacuum.
Right. And I would start by assessing the need, design, and ideas for the community center, and then put that in the context of the 5 big projects that are on the table, probably, is my thought, or more,
Yeah, I agree with everything. Sorry, Wayne. I agree with everything that Craig and Jim said. I mean, one thing that we do have to keep in mind, we're bringing in more business to Millis. So we've got a couple of projects that are going to be coming up. Another 2 more marijuana coming up, and we have some more developments coming in. So we're building houses, which brings more tax revenue in, and we are actually getting some manufacturing coming in, which will help. That isn't going to be right away, but also if we're working on developing some sort of plan, for a senior center, that is going to happen overnight either. So, they may all come together, and then like Craig and Jim both said, is we'll have to assess where we're at. But if we don't have something to go forward with, if we don't have a plan, we've got nothing.
I agree. Frankly, I think Diane is the one who mentioned this. Our discussion should be first focused on what should a senior center, or what should this facility be? Should it be exclusively senior? Should it be multi-generational, as I think that's Abacus's term? What kinds of things should we be doing in the space? How big should it be? I got a question today about why don't we just buy the old Rossi's restaurant building and just put it in there. People have questions about all that, and so getting an understanding, but then of what the needs are, but then addressing some of these questions about what are other options? Is our focus really the right one? Should be a long-term or a short-term solution? And then this question of context of cost. I don't know to what extent any of our long-term debt will be coming off. The $75 million that you're referring to, Jim, is over a period of time. So some of that borrowing will come off, and how does it manage, and will the tax rate increase or decrease in 5 or 10 or 2 years? I think eventually, if we're going to sell a project at some later point, all of those questions need to be addressed. And frankly, those were the same kinds of questions that we did address when we did the Clyde Brown project. We were asking for $50 million in total, and 30 million from the town. So
those are all questions that can be answered on the financial side once we decide on the system. And it's just simply, if 300 more homes come in, since the capital debt is fixed, as you spread that over more homes, it decreases the burden. So that will drive the tax rate down by some level, just solely based on the fact that it's $30 million spread over 300 more homes. And Jim, I haven't gotten to that into my hand.
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, we've approved a couple of developments of 40 homes in one area, and there's another proposed one coming forward. Plus, like I said, the manufacturing, we're actually going to have someone other than residential to tax if they go through and get built. The property itself. So the 1073, that's across from the old Red Barn Plaza. I mean, that one, they'll be taxed on the facility. The facility is going to be, millions of dollars. So we're going to get some tax revenue from that. They're doing solar panels at Collet. That's a taxable thing that we'll get some tax money from that. So, anywhere we can that we're able to, get some tax revenue for bringing things in, that will help.
So let's back up a little bit. What's the feeling of the group about holding in-person focus groups? Is that really our next step?
That's fine.
I think so.
I believe that's the next place to go. I think that, you know, a well-crafted set of discussions, and it may be there's a series here. In other words, you get a couple going, and if, let's just say, I'm speculating, that if you bring people together, you find that instead of a, you know, senior center, you have a lot of interest in a community/senior center. Maybe that changes the next group or two, because I don't think this is something that, I mean, what we've got here really is we've gone to the Council on Aging. We identified them as the customer, just like we did with DPW, and just like we did with, you know, the school community and the library community. And the outcome, you know, has been a fairly narrow one. You know, the view that it should be a senior center only. You know, as we all know, there's a sentiment among the Council on Aging that they want to build a building on the Cassidy farm. They don't want to renovate the VMB. So I think what we need to do is get further community input beyond that, without ignoring what they already asked for, but to try and supplement that with a broader conversation. And I think that's really where we are.
I think the other thing we probably want to do is, I know that, you know, if they have the, and I'm not super familiar with the Council on Aging, but I know they do the, you know, the Meals on Wheels thing. I mean, is there something where if they did have their own space, maybe that's something that could be incorporated in to help, you know, other services that could be offered, you know, that the VMB doesn't have the ability to do. So that when you said focus group, maybe that's something that should be brought up.
Rich, they can do everything they want to do at VMB when it's renovated. They do Meals on Wheels from VMB now.
Okay.
And they
Yes.
can do all the programming we've talked to them about. The problem is they're in contention with the library that does lots of programming, and it's usually well attended by seniors. And in the beginning, they wanted to be in VMB. And then all of a sudden it was, oh no, we want to be in Cassidy Farm. I don't think they know exactly what they want to do personally.
And I think I'm going to steal a line from when Jim was a select board member, back when it was a select men. But it was the continuum of services for seniors with the rec department, with the Council on Aging, with the library. Not look at it as a departmental thing, but how do you provide the best services for that age group? And I think that's where, you know, this committee getting a broader consensus at these group meetings is going to make a lot more sense.
Well, and going back to Diane's point, I mean, so, you know, maybe part of the discussion is, you know, maybe it is or isn't something that, you know, needs to happen. Maybe there is other things that could happen. Like you said, that maybe if the VMB gets a little renovation or whatever, I mean, I'm not quite sure, but I think we should be open-minded.
This was a substantial renovation.
Oh, this was like roughly $10 million.
Right.
Either way, new construction at Cassidy or renovation at the VMB. But I want to raise a slightly different issue, is that when we go to the community to approach, you know, to solicit that feedback, we need the Council on Aging to be part of this process. This can't, I don't see how we can do this as a permanent building committee activity. We can certainly steward it and bring in some of the other aspects of, you know, how this fits in, but we need their partnership in order to make this happen. And so I guess my question is, do we ask them for who is going to be, you know, who they're going to designate? We're going to need some people to put a working group together in order to get these focus groups going.
Would you put a number on that, Wayne? I mean, the number of people involved?
I would say,
5, 10?
I think we would need at least 2 people. I don't think necessarily more than 3. I think it's a small group of people that we need to really put the program together so that we can hold the focus group. I don't think it needs to be more than that.
And I agree with you on the focus group side that we absolutely need that. But as this project evolves, if it becomes more community center, if it becomes other things, then the group, the customer dynamic may change a little bit. But I
Sure.
think starting with the Council on Aging at this point, absolutely, and getting a broader representation at the focus group than just the Council on Aging. In other words, I don't want to go to a Council on Aging meeting and continue that discussion. I think that bringing more and more people in, as we did with the school, we had people whose kids have been out of school for 10 years show up at those meetings.
Right.
To hear and offer feedback. So I think that's the exact model we want to follow.
Down to, I think, just Patty now. They lost their outreach worker, Becky, who was
Yes.
kind of, huh?
Yes, they did.
She was had some vision, I guess, is probably the way I would say it.
We can get vision onto this project for ideas and see what we can come up with and see if it ideas and thoughts.
And that's part of the dilemma that I see here is if the Council on Aging has kind of made up their mind, then it's going to be difficult to have them as partners in a question and answer where we're trying to find out what the community wants. So we're going to need some independent thinking, open-mindedness from that group in order to put these focus groups together.
Well, I think the other thing, Wayne, is that they'll have to understand that they'll need to have buy-in. I mean, so from the community. So it's not just if they have a very narrow focus group, then they have a narrow group of people who are going to support it. So that would be, in their own benefit, they would need to expand their horizon.
We've tried that. I don't think it's worked very effectively.
Well, then, I mean,
easier said than done.
Yeah.
Is this a project? Because I think that there is definitely a need for space for the seniors. And I also think it's unsaleable if it's just, 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, lock the door at 4:30 and walk away.
Exactly.
If by restricting it only to seniors for those 40 hours, if that's what our partner's proposing, maybe we need to broaden our partner base, because I think there's a need for adult space, teen space, youth space on Saturday and Sunday. I think there's needs for space. And maybe this broadens from exclusively Council on Aging to community center, but dedicated to the Council on Aging for their 40 hours a week during the Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30 time slot or something.
So who is that person then, Craig? Is that somebody from the rec department, the rec committee?
I would suggest maybe, and I'm just brainstorming on it, maybe somebody from the rec committee, maybe somebody from the Council on Aging. If you're looking for two people, I'll stop there. If you're looking for a third, Jim, the committee's better than I don't know if there's another committee that would worth referring somebody from.
Well, I mean, if we just was alluded to earlier, if you just identify services to seniors.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the goal. And as we've indicated, the services are being provided by a variety of organizations in the community, the library, the Council on Aging itself, the rec department, which is the world's leader in getting people to play pickleball at all times of day and night.
Boing. Yeah.
Not at night.
So, part of me says that pick a member of each of them has a governing board.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody from the rec committee, the rec director, somebody from the Council on Aging, the Council on Aging director, the library director, and somebody from that board, facilitated by a member of this board, perhaps, to talk about the broader issue. Because I agree, one thing we need to do is get the seniors out of this hard position that they've drawn. And maybe they're right, but they've got to consider the broader issue of assuming that we're going to spend $10 million on some facility. It can't be a facility, as you indicated, Craig, that's open 40 hours a week and closed the rest of the time, because it's just not going to work. And I don't think people on this committee or the people in the community would support it, frankly.
No.
Certainly, and certainly that their target audience wouldn't support it.
No.
Yeah.
Jim McCaffrey, is there some sort of reason that VMB can't be opened on weekends? We were
No.
told we couldn't.
I don't think that's,
No. I mean, sure there is. Because it's, you know, we have to heat the building. I mean, the answer is if you're willing to pay to maintain the building and add staff to clean it, sure you can open. Those answers are always answers around, given the resources that we have, it's very difficult to open that building and then maintain it.
And
So-
one more thing on that is also, you know, my kids went to the basketball there, and because of the way the building's set up, it's not like the Clyde Brown where you can close sections of the building off.
Right.
It's open, and so that the problem being is that yeah, they lock the offices, but you know the kids are wandering around doing stuff they're not supposed to, and so it's not conducive to, you know, being open beyond working hours.
Right.
But Rich, if we were to invest a substantial
Mhm.
amount in adding on a senior or community center, we could make those changes so that the gym is only open through one door and seal off the rest of the building. You know, we've not had to do that, but that's, you know, we're not precluded.
No, I agree.
the library. I mean, the library is the same design. You can
Same
close
thing.
it off, and have it open.
Same thing.
And I think when you're doing a $10 million renovation, one of us can mention to the architect that we'd like to have a gate that you can close that keeps this area off limits.
Exactly. So are we on to something here? Should we think about getting a representative from the Council on Aging and a representative from the, I'm not sure if it's the rec department, is there a rec committee?
Yep.
Yes, there is.
I would say a committee member and the director from each of those. Is that what you're thinking, Jim?
Yeah.
So the paid staff and then the volunteer director.
Yeah, it's a chance just to brainstorm. I mean,
Yeah.
we're at a point here where we really need to brainstorm and reach out to the community, because the permanent building committee is trying to execute a plan. Until we get the plan, we can't deliver a building. I mean,
No.
so I'm trying to figure out a
I
way
think
to
we should-
renew the discussion, I guess, beyond just the
Yeah.
ability to do it face to face. And not that I'm trying to pass the buck to the select board, but
No.
the convener, it seems to me at this point, you know, comes from the board.
Yeah.
Easy for me to say.
Yeah, I'm going to assume my role now as a select board person and thank Jim for his strong recommendation. And not speaking for the board, but I will be glad to bring that back to my two colleagues. Is that what you always say? I think that's pretty much a direct quote. But no, I do think that
Craig, you
moving
need this
away-
gesture where you're passing the buck, you know?
I think that moving away from just one department and into a service for seniors model is something that I will strongly, I will discuss, and I'll bring up it once I figure out how to get something added to the agenda. And once we're ready to move forward with this, I will bring it up at the select board meeting.
Okay, so let me make sure that I understand. So Craig, your thought is that with the rest of your board's approval, you would host a meeting between representatives of this committee, the rec department, rec committee, and
Library.
the Council on Aging.
I'm
Yeah.
going to ask my colleague who did this for many years, it's spent my week in a day. Is it better if the select board hosts it, or do we encourage people to have a joint meeting with the PBC? In other words, we convene it, but is it run by the PBC or run by the select board? What would
I
be
think
your-
it's better run by the select board at this point. Because we are a bit at loggerheads between PBC and Council on Aging, and we're trying to find a way out.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys, Diane and Wayne, if you agree with that, but
Well, we've
yeah.
tried.
I
We've
know.
tried to do,
I don't think
approaches.
we don't need our whole committee to be part of this at this stage. I think I would say one or two representatives of our committee as well would meet with with the others and hopefully hash out a path forward.
I agree with that, Wayne, because I was envisioning it being something where there's not a quorum of any committee, therefore
Right,
you can have a working session.
right.
And Wayne, I
That's some
suggest that
agreement.
it be the elders of the committee. So
Okay, Wayne, I'm right behind you.
No, I think you're right ahead of me.
I think you're all behind me, so behave.
you
Okay,
guys, your wisdom is what we
Got a
need.
long way to go.
Yeah, and John Larkin is being suspicious,
Quiet.
quiet. Yeah,
Don, that's the smartest thing I've seen tonight.
yeah.
All I have to say, and I'm serious, I think it's very important, whoever represents the other side of this equation, obviously the Council on Aging will be part of it, Recreation maybe will be part of it, but I think some younger thinking has to be involved.
Well,
And I'm not part of that, so.
if we bring in the library, there are a couple of really good, thoughtful trustees that I think would help.
I think the rec department would share some thinking around teens and youth also
Yep.
on that.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. Okay. All right, so Craig, your next step is then to get buy-in from the rest of the select board to proceed?
My first step is to figure out how to put it on an agenda, but beyond that, yes.
Okay, all right.
that
And
is not my-
should we, in anticipation of your success, designate 2 members here that would participate from the permanent building committee?
I would encourage that, get the ball rolling, as it were.
Okay, all right. Do we have anybody that has a burning desire to carry this torch forward?
You do, Wayne.
I am happy to be involved.
Good.
But
Well, I have so much time invested in it now. If I'm not a pariah, I would be involved too.
So if you are a pariah,
I'm going.
Go ahead
the
anyway.
gate.
all right. Anybody else have a burning desire to?
with 3, you have a quorum, Wayne.
Well, that's true. That's true.
My desire is not lit right at this point in time, but I'm always here to weigh in on building parts.
Okay, all
I
right.
don't
So
think
then,
it's bad to have a quorum if we want to see if Mr. McCaffrey will come back and join us.
Well, I'm happy to work on it, but the first phase here is not with a quorum of a committee. Otherwise, we're gonna run into
Right.
we're not gonna get the same kind of conversation, I don't think.
I think a healthy conversation without a quorum is probably the smarter way to go with it.
but then let me just selfishly suggest that maybe Diane and Jim represent the committee at this stage.
That's fine. I'm happy to do that.
Okay,
Diane?
I will,
are you-
yep.
Okay. And then to the extent that,
I want you to go spend more time with Cardozi and see if you can get down a little bit further.
yeah. Well, we're certainly going to be involved in that. So why don't the 2 of you see where this goes? Craig will see if you can't put something together. And the rest of us will be available. And I think that's what we would hope to happen, and certainly can be involved in the execution and carrying out, actually getting Abacus out here and doing the focus groups. I've had some experience with that and happy to do that again. But I think at this stage, consensus, instead of being at loggerheads with the Council on Aging is really what we need to get past. All right, does that work?
Okay.
Okay, well, thank
I
you.
get an email as we speak, Wayne.
Okay, all right. Anything else we need to talk about?
Not from my perspective.
Okay. On a totally different subject, I will just mention, I'm not sure to what extent people know this, but Paul Sims, the maintenance person at the VMB, has taken the Lansing Millis building under his protection, and I think he's doing a good job of trying to make sure that it stays safe and trying to keep some lights on and maintain the exterior. And I feel better that we've got somebody who's an interested party, just keeping an eye on the building until we decide what we might ultimately do with it. So that's where that is. I think probably maybe any idea, Jim or Craig, on whether the economic development group is going to get more involved in trying to find a home use for the building?
I have not had any conversations yet. I don't know if Jim had any on his way out the door on that one, but it's not. Week in a day, Wayne, week in a day.
Okay. Well, it's not quite as urgent as it was. I feel better that we got somebody keeping an eye on the building. And I think if we're getting water damage and if we're getting raccoons and squirrels in there, we can deal with that on an ad hoc basis.
Yeah, I do think that they're looking to see if there's grants available. I'm pretty sure that economic development is going to try to take some of this under its purview, if you will. But that was kind of the direction that we were headed. And I'm assuming that that will continue.
Okay. All right.
And I have talked to, in no way trying to compete with the trustees, but I did talk to our historic, grants people, and I'm going to pass a few grant leads along. I'm not applying for them, but I'll pass them along, obviously, to our economic development group. There are monies out there. They're harder to get, but there are monies available, and I can pass the leads on that I can drum up.
Great. Okay. Anything else anybody'd like to discuss tonight? We have a construction meeting on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. It's a Zoom meeting, I believe. I think the last one was in person, so this we're doing it every other time in person. So this coming meeting is a Zoom meeting. If you'd like to attend, please feel free to do so. All right.
Very good.
All right. Well, then motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
So moved.
Quick,
Nicely done.
Evening, everyone. Thank you.
thanks.
Good night.
All right. Good night.
Night.